Hi guys, let's talk about language and gender studies. Language and gender studies. Language and gender is an interdisciplinary field of research that studies varieties of speech in terms of gender, gender relations, gendered practices, and sexuality. In the Handbook of Language and Gender, 2003, Janet Holmes and Miriam Meyerhoff discuss the shift that has occurred in the field since the early 1970s. A movement away from essentialist and dichotomous conceptions of gender to a differentiated, contextualized, and performative model which questions generalized claims about gender. Regarding gender, extensive research on language, culture, and identity has sought to uncover the logic of the encoding of sex differences in languages, to analyze the oppressive implications of ordinary speech, to explain miscommunication between men and women, to explore how gender is constructed and interacts with other identities, and to investigate the role of language in helping establish gender identity as part of a broader range of processes through which membership in particular groups is activated, imposed, and sometimes contested through the use of linguistic forms that activate stances. Language and gender studies have seen significant expansion to encompass sexual orientation, ethnicity and multilingualism, and, to some extent, class, involving analyses of spoken, written, and signed gendered identities. Issues in language and gender. According to Sally McConnell-Jeanette, gender, sexuality, and meaning, linguistic practice and politics. Gender and language suffer from the same problem as that confronting sociolinguistics and psycholinguistics more generally: too much abstraction. Abstracting gender and language from the social practices that produce their particular forms in given communities often obscures and sometimes distorts the ways they connect and how those connections are implicated in power relations, in social conflict, in the production and reproduction of values and plans. Too much abstraction is often symptomatic of too little theorizing. Abstraction should not substitute for theorizing but be informed by and responsive to it. Theoretical insight into how language and gender interact requires a close look at social practices in which they are jointly produced. Terminologies of language and gender. Linguistic origins of gender. According to Aristotle, the Greek philosopher Protagoras used the term masculine, feminine, and neuter to classify noun, introducing the concept of grammatical gender as a grammatical category. Essentialist, a philosophical theory ascribing ultimate reality to essence embodied in a thing perceptible to the senses. Dichotomous, dividing into two parts. Sociolinguistics, the study of the sociological aspects of language. Attempt to isolate those linguistic features that are used in particular situations and that mark the various social relationships among the participants and the significant elements of the situation. Psycholinguistics, the study of the relationships between linguistic behavior and psychological processes, including the process of language acquisition. Noun gender. The noun gender tells us about the sex of the noun. 1. Masculine gender. A noun is said to be in the masculine gender if it refers to a male character or member of a species. 2. Feminine gender. A noun is said to be in the feminine gender if it refers to female member of a species. 3. Neuter gender. A noun is said to be in the neuter gender if it refers to a member of a species which is neither a male nor a female. End of the presentation. Thank you for listening.